Okay, Todd, when you think of February, what do you think?
Leap year.
Oh,
Valentine's Day.
yeah. Groundhog.
February. I think it's weird that we have an R in there. Those are the three things I think of.
Two problems with our language, February and Wednesday.
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 So the only two problems with the English
That's
language.
it. Everything else is easy.
And I also have the judgment that anybody who lives in the upper Midwest, February is the worst month because we're still, the Christmas thing is well over.
Right.
March is still not here. I don't know, January seems more tolerable because it's supposed to be cold. Whereas February, I feel like,
You always tell me that February is tough for sports.
Well, yeah, I mean, we got March Madness, but March Madness didn't even start until.
That's my point.
Until
sweetie.
when, sweetie?
March.
March, right. Super Bowl's over.
Right.
Baseball hasn't begun yet. So we got basketball, hockey, and
hockey.
So anyways, you ready to start the show?
I'm ready. Let's go.
Here we go. My name's Todd.
And this is Kathy.
Welcome back to another episode of Zen Parenting Radio. This is podcast number, I'm guessing, 752. Does that sound right?
Yeah, I think so.
Let's just go with that. Maybe it's wrong. Who knows?
Does everything have to be right?
Sweetie, if loving you is wrong, man.
I don't want to be right.
I don't want to be right. 752, I was right.
Good.
I'm going to tease, and then we're going to talk about some other things.
Okay.
You sent me an article in the New York Times, and it was all about, what's the headline? You want to read the headline?
Sure. It was sent to me by my friend Annie, and it's from the New York Times. It's called Parents Are Highly Involved in Their Adult Children's Lives and Fine with It.
All right. So that's the tease.
Yes, it's such a good read, everybody. I'm excited to talk about it.
But first, we're going to talk about your Zen parenting moment.
Okay.
I just decided in the last 5 minutes that our Zen parenting moments are going to be brought to you by David Serrano.
Nice.
David Serrano is our personal financial advisor. He's a wonderful guy. You can trust him. He can work with you no matter where you are in the world. We've had a relationship for a long time. He's super smart, and he helps you get better at where to put your money and how to make it grow, and college tuitions and retirement plans. So with that in mind, his phone number is 815-370-3780. Give David a call and tell him Zen Parenting sent you.
So you reminded me of like commercials from our childhood. Is anyone really writing down that number?
But wait, there's more.
But wait, shouldn't there be a link or something?
It's in the show notes. So just scroll. But some people write something down.
They do. Do you remember all the ads that I used to love for the albums that, they would play all the clips from the albums? And as a kid, I would memorize those commercials. This may not be shocking to many.
If I wanted to look it up on YouTube?
Look up Secret Love.
I know, but what was like the brand? Like, how would I look it up?
God, they were all different.
Would I call it a record commercial?
Just put in Secret Love commercial songs or something. Like, I'm sure it'll pop up somehow because that was one of my favorite. And then Freedom Rock. I loved Freedom Rock. Do you remember Freedom Rock?
This is Secret Love commercial 1987. That seems too late.
No, that's it.
All right,
that's it because that was my junior year in high school. That's it. Loved this album.
Do that to me one more time.
Hi, if you like soft rock music like we do, you'll love Sessions' new album called Secret Love.
It has 48 soft rock classics by the original artists.
Just listen.
You, baby, come to me.
Who sings that, sweetie? I'm going to test you. Who's Baby Come to Me? Well, I got you.
No, you didn't. You didn't.
I got
it's Peebo Bryson,
Patty Austin, and James Ingram. Let's see how you do with the next one. That's P. Oh, I think you're right. It was Peebo Bryson.
Thank you.
I was looking at the other one. Let's see what the next one is.
This is Jennifer Lawrence and Joe Cocker.
Very good.
Is that James Ingram?
That was Sergio Mendes.
Oh.
But as I'm looking at this YouTube clip, the guy just went in for a kiss and she pushed him away.
I remember that.
Oh my.
Okay, so these commercials, this is one of many.
Yeah.
I had them memorized in my head. So like in school, if I heard like, Never Gonna Let You Go, I knew exactly what it went into next.
Yes. All right, let's try a few more.
Okay.
These songs really bring out the animal in some people. You also get great hits by Billy Ocean, James Taylor, the Commodores, and the Moody Blues.
But she just told us that. You know what this is? This is Foreigner.
Very good.
Cool in the game.
Oh, Secret Love.
I don't know Precious and Few. Climax.
Very good.
Got it.
That's Sweetie's secret superpower.
Yeah, if I had to do a talent show, that's probably all I could bring. That and my like mediocre drums.
Okay, so the Zen parenting moment.
Okay, yes.
I'm actually going to play a clip from your Zen parenting moment. And
Nice.
then we're going to talk about it.
When I was younger, I'd say, psst, believe she's an old making money like me. Cashing Victoria's Secret. She was made by you.
All right. So I did not know that this was a song.
Oh, really?
So I saw your moment. I'm like, oh, it's a really good moment. I think a lot of people will be interested in it. And then I'm like, this looks like it might be a song. And you hyperlinked it.
Yeah.
So I pulled it up. So what did you write? Why did you write it?
So Jax, first of all, I'm going to talk about that song real quick, and then I'll go into what I wrote. She wrote that several years ago. And she used to be a nanny, and the girl that she was nannying, and I don't know if Jax, I think she's a TikToker. I don't think she's a YouTuber, but she's in that world. Like, she's an influencer. And the girl that she was nannying for was starting to get this like discomfort with her body. And Jax is obviously a singer, songwriter, entertainer. And so, but she wasn't famous. And she wrote this song for that girl, and she sang it kind of, without all the musical background, and everybody loved it. So she made it into a song, and it was on the radio for a long time. I don't know how high it climbed, but anyway, I chose that because, like I said, sometimes when I write things, certain things run through my head, and that's what ran through my head, because there's these two things that are big in social media. They have been for a while. I would say that my girls would probably read this and think I'm very outdated already.
This will be a test. OOTD.
OOTD.
Don't say what it stands for. And the other is GRWM. So the test for the listener is, do you know what OOTD means? And do you know what GRWM means?
Should we give them a second?
1 second. Now say what it is. What's OOTD?
Outfit of the day.
What the heck is that?
OOTD is, I don't know where things start, but it's very popularized by girls in college, girls with money, but girls who can show you what they're wearing and go through each item. So basically they'll start by saying OOTD, and they'll say, shirt by DKNY, pants by Lululemon, shoes by Golden Goose, bracelets by whoever. I don't know all these things, and then they just go through everything they're wearing. Earrings. Sometimes they'll throw in like things like thrifted these. And so then they just show you what they're wearing, and then they go about their day. And
Can I do my OOTD with you right now?
Let's do it.
OOTD, Iowa Hawkeyes hat because my wife gave it to me.
Yes.
A rainbow hoodie because
Your
my sister gave that to me, and then I think my dad gave it to her. And it's one of my favorite sweatshirts.
That doesn't make sense. Your sister gave it to you, but your dad gave it to your, she regifted.
And I love the sweatshirt, but I've been wearing my purple hoodie a lot because it's thicker, plus it's just purple.
True.
And then I have my running pants on and awesome orange shoes.
I don't think you'd get a lot of followers.
I don't think I would either.
I know.
What's GRWM?
GRWM is get ready with me. And that is where somebody gets really close to their camera, and they'll say GRWM. They don't even say it. They're just like, they say, get ready with me. It's just the hashtag is GRWM. And then they start to do their skincare routine. And as they're doing it, they tell a story. So it'll be like, okay, today, you guys, and they'll be putting their serum on their hands and wiping it on their face. And they'll be like, and then, he said to me, and then what I decided to do was, and while they're doing it, they're just going through this whole routine, and influencers will stop and say, oh, I got this at blah, blah, blah. Because as I write about in this, Zen parenting moment, a lot of them are getting sent these things and then they're using them and then they get paid.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not because it's the greatest product in the world. It's because someone's willing to pay this influencer to use it. We know that, especially with Get Ready With Me, because it's skincare and makeup, basically, that this is being so pushed on our girls, that there needs to be some extensive skincare routine. And this is starting at a very early age, 9 or 10. And then there is this like extensive makeup routine, and that you don't just have makeup. You don't like go to Walgreens or CVS. You have makeup from a line that was created by someone who's famous, maybe someone you follow, and then you have all sorts of different products. Okay.
So can I pause real quick?
Sure.
So would this be designed for adolescent, mostly girls, right?
Get Ready With Me?
Yeah.
Oh gosh, no. There are
Teenagers?
women my age who do it.
Oh, they do?
Uh-huh.
Well, I just want to go back into whatever, 1985 or 1988, whenever you, did your process look different than what these girls' process did? And if so, how?
Of course. I mean, there's a few things. Number one, makeup. You could go, like my mom went to the Clinique counter or the Lancome counter, but I didn't have that money. So I would get all my makeup at a drugstore, right? And I would follow what 17 magazine told me to do.
Got it.
You know?
And nowadays they go to Sephora.
Nowadays they go to Sephora.
Okay.
And that's a whole other thing. That's like a thousands and I mean, makeup is so expensive if it's a brand name, right? It's less about going to like when I remember when something that I did for each of my girls is I said, when you're in 8th grade, I will take you to, I chose Bobby Brown because it has a natural look to it.
Not Millie Bobby Brown.
Not Millie Bobby Brown, but Bobby Brown is a type of makeup that I felt had a natural look to it. It wasn't like really, it was like, here's how you put on makeup where you feel good about what you look like. So before they started wearing makeup in 8th grade, I took them there and I said, I'll buy you one of these products, you know, one product that Bobby Brown puts out. They actually, 2 of them chose mascara from her, but then the rest of they're showing you how to do it, but now you have to go get cheaper stuff and do it.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Got it.
But at least someone was showing them how, you know?
And what's underneath it all? Like, why did you think it was important to write this moment? What is it about?
Oh, so the moment, it's OOTD and Get Ready With Me, GRWM. I just wanted, it's funny because I kind of wrote it for teens, but I was directing it at parents. I wanted to make the point that I understand, because in the first paragraph, I talk about how my TikTok feed started to pick up the algorithm of OOTD, especially when my daughter first went to college, because I was getting a lot of college girls on my feed. And I was getting kind of obsessed too. Like, oh, that's cool. Look at those bracelets. Oh, that's neat. You know? And I was like, okay, this is powerful. Right. And I'm 52. How old am I? 52.
52.
So I know that these girls they're not being vapid. They're not being vain. They're being targeted. So
I just feel the need. We talked to Nate last week. And he talked about that David versus Goliath thing.
Exactly.
It's so easy for us old people, 51-year-old man, to say, oh, just ignore all that stuff.
Right.
It's literally David versus Goliath. And I think what he meant by that is there's the smartest people in the world using artificial intelligence, using algorithm, leveraging devices to target our kids with messages. And it's not an impossibility, but it's extremely hard for them to see things with any clarity because these things are designed so precisely to help to persuade us to do something.
Well, and it's not just the algorithm or what they see, it's their culture, it's their generation. Like their culture, their generation likes makeup and skincare. So you can't be like, I'm not going to, I mean, there are plenty of girls and guys who are like, I'm not going to do that. But then they don't know what people are talking about, right? Then it's kind of like saying to us, you know, what was one of our favorite shows, you know?
Family Ties?
Yeah, well, I did that. You and I loved Family Ties.
Brady Bunch.
Maybe, but that's all. That was like
Cosby Show.
No, let's think about something that everybody was into, like maybe Star Wars. I don't know. But there's like this thing where it's like, no, just don't watch that. Just don't like that. And it's like, yeah, but everybody talks about it.
Got it.
So like, I need to know if I'm going to be in my culture and be with people, this is something that we do. Now, I may be someone who, like my oldest daughter doesn't really wear makeup. Occasionally she does, but she's not into it. But she likes other things. She likes thrifting and she likes jewelry and she, you know what I mean? Like, so it's like you can kind of have your own lane, but there's got to be something that you're somewhat interested in. So I think I was writing it at teens just to validate that it's understandably alluring. But I was also saying to parents, you have to start having conversations about it, not because you're going to convince your kids to not live in a comparison culture, because they do, but you have to start talking about, these influencers get paid. And, it's kind of like the cooking culture where like you're shown a TikTok of someone cooking something and it turns out perfect. And you have to tell your kids they did that 50 times to make the TikTok look perfect. They're not getting it perfect every time. And I can say that because I made macaroni and cheese for the Super Bowl and it was not that good.
A little more cheese would have helped.
And it was the wrong cheese. I wanted to do smoked Gruyere.
Why don't you do something crazy like jalapeno cheddar cheese?
Well, your sister had a good point. She said white cheddar is really strong, but I followed the recipe to perfection.
You didn't trust your gut.
No, I did. I followed the recipe. Well, Todd,
Did you follow the recipe
I don't
or did
follow
you trust your gut?
I don't have a gut with cooking.
Sweetie, it's time for you to find your guts.
I'm just not, that's just not something I have with cooking. But I followed the recipe. I'm like, okay, this can be great. It looked great. It heated up great. And I was like, everyone was nice to me, but I'm like, I don't like it.
It was a little, it was fine. It
wasn't great.
Yeah.
Right.
And what is it about California Pizza Kitchen macaroni and cheese?
They have to give us their recipe.
Actually, it was Potbelly's had really good macaroni and cheese. So what is it about those cheeses, about that mac and cheese that makes it good? I don't know.
So it's funny because we were at the conference, we needed to like eat kind of on the fly. And my friend Jess, who helps us with the conference, she's like ordered all this food and she got this big tub of macaroni and cheese. And I made fun of her. Like nobody's going to eat this. And I feel like there's someone else making fun of her. I'm like, no one's going to eat this.
I think I did.
Yeah. And then all of a sudden everyone's like, this is the best.
It came super hot.
Super hot.
Something about that container kept it hot. And it was really good. And it was plain. Like, it's not like they had like spicy chicken in it. It was macaroni and cheese.
Period.
And it was really good.
So anyway, I like Zen Parenting Moment. I write them. So of course I like them. But this one I felt very connected to because I'm just trying to say to parents, do your best to talk about it and know that your kids will understand this later. But they need your voice in their head so they can go back to it. Because to say to a 17-year-old, 15-year-old, 13-year-old, don't compare. Duh. Are you kidding me?
Well,
of course they're going to.
And it's an invitation. How do we compare as adults? We compare all the time.
And that's the conversation is I kind of put in there, like, why are you comparing because the whole idea that these people who have these fancy things and all the bracelets and the good shoes are happier, that's a misperception.
Truth.
So anyway, I'll just let people read it, link to it.
Yeah, it's in the show notes.
Yeah.
So the main part of our podcast is being brought to you by Team Zen, sweetie.
Yes.
And we have a new Team Zen member.
Nice.
Kim from Virginia.
Welcome, Kim.
She's not new. It's Kimmy. Remember, she dropped off and
Kimmy's
back.
She's
back. Back again.
You were like, hi, Kim, we're going to talk about you. She was at the conference and we haven't seen her in a while because we haven't had a conference. And we were like, it's so great that you're on Team Zen. She's like, you guys, I haven't been on Team Zen for a while. And Todd's like, you got to come back.
Yes.
And then I felt bad, like we're twisting her arm, but she's back.
I feel like I should play this song. Kim.
I hope she's laughing while listening to this.
I'm sure she is. She's a sweetheart. And so is her husband, Derek.
Yes. So much fun with both of them. I'm still thinking about the conference. I just love those live things.
So for those of you who may not know what Team Zen is, we have this app. It's called the Circle app. It's a Team Zen membership platform. It's an app with Zen Parenting Radio's complete parenting collection, plus live talks all in one place. We have all these micro communities, Zen Finance, Raising Healthy Sons, Differently Wired Families.
I have a women's group.
So what we have coming up is we have a micro community, loved ones dealing with addiction. And then we also have Raising Healthy Sons coming up. We have Zen Talk number 182, and then you have a women's group coming up. So
yeah, and I kind of feel like the key to this is if you're unsure, join, and then you have like so many podcasts you can listen to. Because I think we've done how many Team Zen?
182.
182. So they're all in podcast form, and they'll go to your podcast app.
And you can search by topic, and it will take you, not just take you to the podcast, but it'll take you to the point in the podcast where we talk about that thing. So if it's about porn or weed or whatever it is, you can go right to it. And I just decided, just in this moment, if you join in the next, say, month, I'll send you a Shefali book. What's the name of her
we have
book?
some extras. The Parent Map.
The Parent Map, a really good book. We actually interviewed her. So anyways, that's the promo. If you want a free book, I'll send it to you. It's on us. You just pay the $25 for 1 month, check it out. And if you don't like it, you just cancel whenever you want.
All right. You ready to talk about our content?
Yeah, let's go ahead. You start because you sent this to me.
Okay. So like I said, my friend Annie sent this to me. She knew I would like this because we have these conversations all the time. It's, again, parents are highly involved in their adult children's lives and fine with it. And the subtitle is New Surveys Show That Today's Intensive Parenting Has Benefits, Not Just Risks. And most young adults seem pretty happy with it.
Yep.
So I think this is kind of a something you and I discuss a lot because I was just telling Skylar upstairs before I came down because I asked her how she felt about this article and we kind of had a conversation about it. And I was telling her how, as a parent, I know how I feel about all these things. But as somebody who works with parents and someone who does a podcast, I have to be a little more thoughtful about the language I use because there's still this belief, even from Gen X, that, and maybe millennials too, I don't know, because they're having children as well, that there is this don't be friends with your kid mentality that I think is left over from the boomer era, where it's like, if you become close to your kid, they are going to fail. Mm-hmm. If your kids depend on you, then you're harming them. Yep. If your kids as adults ask you or, for help or text you, you haven't set them up for adulthood. And I've always felt, I never agreed with that. Obviously there's a binary here that we're, trying to work within. Like, it's not, you're either friends with your kid and you mess them up, or you're not friends at all and they're fine. There's all this space in between. Yeah. So I'll stop for a second. Comment.
So I feel like the nature of this conversation, and I have a few specific topics or things I thought of as I read the article, but I think that us parents think we know what it's like to be a kid, right? And we don't. And the two examples I'm going to give is as far as independence or dependence in college and all that, because we're talking about young adults, mm-hmm. right? Most colleges are insanely expensive as compared to 30 years ago, whenever we went to school. Correct. So it's not a fair comparison. No. So I just want to say that. And the phone changed everything. Totally. Like our kids, I judge, have a much more challenging childhood because of that phone. They also get to do a lot of cool things on their phone, like watch YouTube and play games and all that. But the idea that we think we know what it's like to grow up is ridiculous.
Well, and the idea that we are going to put our history on them and say, here's what I did, so you should do that. It's not, it doesn't line up. It's just not the same. And, Todd, you just said, college is so much more expensive, which you're absolutely right. Houses are so much more expensive.
Forget it.
Apartments, jobs are changing. Everything's different. It doesn't mean our kids are screwed. It's not. There is lots of, again, there's a nuance in here. There's a lot of things that they have access to that we didn't. Like, I'm going to go way back. I remember when I was in my 20s and my friends were starting to get jobs where they were managing. Mm-hmm. Okay. I was in all of my best friends were more in a business world. I was in like a education and social, work kind of world.
Where all the big bucks come from, sweetie.
So broke. Oh, my friends had money and I did not. Or they had more. They'd probably fight me on that they had money, but I just felt I was totally, sorry, sidetrack. I was totally that Friends episode.
Yeah. The
steaks and the eggplant. The one where Joey and Rachel and Phoebe don't have money and Ross and Monica and Chandler do. Yeah. And they go out to eat and they like split the bill and everyone's like, oh my God, I was that person. And I don't know if they remember me that way, because I don't know how much I said about it, but I just did not like, I remember we had an apartment on Belmont and Broadway, and I was like barely making rent. And then my 3 roommates, they were like, we want to move to a nicer place. And I totally get it. I just didn't have the money. I did it. And I kind of upped my game, financially, but.
Can I play a clip from that, Friends?
You sure
You
can.
tell me when to stop.
Okay.
Whoa! Does anybody else feel like they just gave birth to an alien?
Yes. No.
Okay, plus the tip divided by 6. And everyone owes $28.
Everyone?
Oh, you're right. I'm sorry.
Monica's
Thank you.
birthday.
It's Monica's big night. She shouldn't pay.
Oh, thank you.
So 5 of us is $33.50 apiece.
No, no way. Sorry, not gonna happen.
Whoa, prom night flashback.
You could stop it.
Yeah, that's
Actually, it wasn't Monica's birthday. Monica got a promotion.
Oh, okay.
And
It's a real thing.
It's a real thing.
Yeah.
And no one's hurting. Like, it's not like Ross and Monica and Chandler need to feel guilty about that. My friends were crushing it. Like, I was so impressed with them and loved them. It's just, I sometimes couldn't keep up. And I had some credit card debt. Let's just say that I had to work my way out of that. Lots of stories. So where was I going? Why did I derail?
I don't know, sweetie, but we were talking about money and
I know.
independence and college and apartment.
Yes. So I guess my point is that I don't think, even though I kind of think about, I left college and I went directly to Chicago and lived in Chicago and figured it out and, got into a little credit card debt, got my way out of that, lived in apartments, stuff like that. It's not as easy to do that today.
No,
I think
harder.
I think it's harder.
Statistically, it's harder.
It is. And so we sometimes are like, I wish my kid would do exactly what I did. And they may be able to, depending on their major and what kind of internships and jobs they get. I've heard plenty of stories where kids have been crushing it. Like one of my girlfriends, or, her daughter moved to New York and has an amazing job. And, this is possible.
Amazing job. And can you imagine what her rent is in Manhattan?
It's a lot.
And can you imagine what cost of living is in Manhattan?
It's a lot.
So you don't get stuck on that salary thing.
True. Good point.
Because if you live in Arkansas, you can make a lot less money and be much wealthier.
Yeah.
Based on cost of living.
Yeah.
So,
it's all relative.
So my 2 stories, and then we'll go in any direction. One is just the idea of being friends, being in contact with your children as they grow into young adulthood. I remember I would call my mom when I was in college once a week on Sunday night.
Right.
Our relationship with our children looks a lot different. Like, I don't know, does a day go by typically where you don't talk to at least one of our 2 college kids?
No, I talked to one of them at least.
Right. And somebody might be like, oh, well, you're not letting them be independent.
Right.
And I think that's the essence of what this article is. Are we doing our children a disservice by communicating with them on a daily basis? Because I talked to my mom for 10 minutes when I was in Iowa living there. And it's so much different than the way we approach our kids now.
Okay. So first of all, there's 2 big points I want to make. Number 1 is access. As you said, the phone has totally changed everything, because when I was in college, there was a phone on the wall that my roommate Andrea and I shared. And if we were going to have like a long conversation with somebody, we didn't want to annoy the other one, right? So we'd try and do it at a certain time. Maybe it was at Sunday or whatever. And we also couldn't go anywhere. We had to stand right there and talk in that phone. Now we have access to texting and calling, FaceTiming whenever we want. So if we had that, you probably would have talked to your mom a lot.
I bet you I would have.
So it's not, again, apples and oranges. I think my biggest point with this is, I remember, I have the women's group in Team Zen, but I used to do a live women's circle, like here in my hometown. And something that we always talked about early on is I would always talk about how the work that we're doing, like where we're trying to like shore up our insides and be really self-aware so we can connect with our girls. I always thought about our generation as being a bridge from boomers to our kids, generation, if they be millennials or Gen Zers, that we were trying to shift some of these paradigms. And so we were not only trying to heal our own childhood, but create a different childhood for our kids. I always saw us as a bridge. It was just kind of the way I saw it. So if that's the case, if everyone can go along with me, then of course our relationship with our kids it's going to be different.
Mhm.
It's not going to be the way it was in our, with our parents. Like, we are going to have a different kind of trust, a different kind of communication, a different kind of acceptance of each other. We are going to be better communicators. We are going to be maybe, hopefully, more trusting of each other. So again, I don't care what terms people use. I'm close to my kids. My kids are my friends. I feel like peers with my kids. I think we get too worked up about
what it means,
trajectory
into the future. This is what this kid's going to turn out to be if I talk to him every day.
Because of things I've read or books have told me. And there's like this great TikTok that's going around that Michelle Obama said, I'm not going to be friends with my kids. And it's Michelle Obama, bow down. I love her. So she's not wrong. But her point was, I'm not going to be friends with my kids because then I have to worry about them liking me. And the reason why she's kind of talking through a very specific thing, that when her kids were teenagers, she had to still be that role of parent. And she didn't want to be friendly or best friends with her kids where she had to worry about that sometimes they'd be annoyed with her or setting boundaries. And I think this is where we almost need new language, because I have never struggled with that.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I know that I'm my kid's parent and I know I'm the one who needs to set boundaries. I'm not worried about my kid not liking me because I've set boundaries.
Yeah.
I am concerned though, or thoughtful about when I'm having conversations with my kids. I want to be curious. I want to be conscientious. I want to honor their experience. That doesn't mean I don't have boundaries. And I'm not saying that's what I'm trying to say is there is something kind of viral right now that Michelle Obama said, and I think she's right. But I also think what we're talking about here is different.
Well, and it's funny, I feel like you're always one being the qualifier, making sure that we're saying the right thing. Right. But my qualifier is every single situation is different.
Correct.
It's possible that if you talk to your kids every day, that you are spoiling them and they're not going to be independent. It's possible because there's all these different parents and kids and
relationships, dynamics.
Then there's other times, you could take the opposite approach where you're so hands off, you're screwing your kid over because the kid needs a little support and a little bit of help. So my quick story, and this is back in the 90s, I guess, I lived with my mom until I was 27.
Oh, we know this because you and I were dating.
We know this.
We know this.
And some people be like, what? Todd's never going to get his crap together. Now, what I did with that time, because I saw all my friends moving to Lincoln Park, paying $800 a month in rent. And I'm like, I'm so money scarce, like emotionally, like my psychology of money was like, I don't want to run out. So the best way to run out is not to pay rent. And my friends spent all this money and they were broke. And I took my paycheck and I put it aside and I paid off my school loans and I saved enough money to buy an apartment building, which has set us on a trajectory. So I know it's a one-person sample size, but it did not make me dependent upon my mom for the rest of my life.
So you and I literally had the opposite experiences, right? So I left immediately. From college, moved to Chicago and got a job and paid rent and never had any savings.
More typical of our crew.
Typical, exactly. And then you did the other thing. And I think both of us had amazing experiences. Sure. I think that you obviously came out with the money to buy the building, that was before we were married. I mean, we lived there together. And then it was awesome. You wanted Marty to move in with us, and your dad. We had many variations of that apartment building.
We should do a podcast on Todd. You should listen to Ellie Solomon's interview with us, because we go down the historical lane of Todd and Kathy's courtship.
Well, it's just funny because Marty was over the other day. So we were talking about how Marty was like a big fight for us because I was ready to get married or engaged or something or move in.
Direction. I'm like, no, I got to have Marty.
You're like, you know what? I might ask Marty to move in with me. So Marty thought that was funny. Anyway, I didn't think it was funny at the time, but I love Marty. So it was hard to be mad.
Right. How can you be mad at Mart?
You can't. So anyway, my point is that I think we both had really good experiences. I learned a ton. Maybe it's what we needed, because I think me living by myself in Chicago, because I lived with my girlfriends in 2 different apartments. We had a ball, did the whole Wrigleyville thing. It was amazing. I loved it. Then I lived by myself for about 3 or 4 years. Mm-hmm. And now in Chicago, doing my own thing, taking care of my own car, taking out my own garbage, everything on my own. And I needed that.
Yeah.
I needed to grow up.
Yep.
And I am so glad. Like if I would have stayed at home and saved money, and I'm not quite sure I would have had the same experience you
Can
did.
we tell the John Kassan story when something happened to your car and you called him? You're in Chicago. He was in DeKalb, Illinois.
Actually, that was college.
Okay. So can you tell that story? Because I like it.
Well, my friend Nancy and I, we lived at the Alpha Phi house, and we walked outside, and both of our back windows of our cars in the parking lot were like someone had thrown a rock through them. Oh, college. And I was like, oh my God. And we were both freaking out because, you need your car. Like it was life altering. And so I called my dad and I was like, Dad, someone threw a rock through my window. And I was like going on and on and on. And I'm like, and what am I going to do? And he's like, I can't do anything for you right now. Like you have to take the steps, call a glass company,
Get the yellow pages out.
like exactly. He's like, walk through. And actually it did happen again. I was driving home. I was working. This was in Chicago. I had to go to Springfield for a meeting, long story. And I was driving home. My windshield wipers stopped working. So I pulled off, called my dad and said, Dad, my windshield wipers aren't working. He's like, can't do anything for you.
Yeah, what are
You're
you
going
gonna
to have
do?
to rise to the occasion.
Right.
And see, here's the thing. If one of my girls called me from the side of the road, see, it's so different because of the phone, because they would so easily be able to track someone down. But I would say the same thing. You have to keep going. You have to figure this out from where you are. So them calling is a support. Us driving, 5 hours to get to them may not be necessary. We can walk them through how to do things. And here's the thing, they've never done it before. Like me saying to my dad, my windshield wipers stopped working. He's like, yeah, that makes sense. They probably blah, blah. Like he had experience with this, but he was also like, I can't fix it from where I am. So, but you have to have I think I'm getting kind of lost in the mix here, but sometimes we're like, how did our kid not know that? Because they've never experienced it before.
Well, and that is a lot of like our responsibility as parents to put them in positions to learn things.
Right.
And if I say we as a generation have sheltered them from having any type of obstacles, then yeah, it's going to be a slow learning curve for young adults. Our hope is that we love and support our kids, and at the same time, they figure stuff out and develop their own sense of resilience as well.
Well, and I'll kind of temper what you just said, because what you just said is kind of the old school thinking, like, did we shelter them from having bad experiences versus when they're having experiences, if it be when they're 5, 10, 14, 17, 18, do they know they can contact us for support?
Sure.
Do they know that we are willing to help them when they're 25, 30? That, it's this paradox that we have with parenting where we'll say, something, our kid will be struggling or have depression or have something awful happen. And they'll be like, I wish they would have known they can talk to me. I wish, why didn't they call me? Why didn't they ask for help? And yet sometimes we get ourselves into situations with our kids where we're like, you just need to figure it out, or we're judgmental, or we're distant and not helpful. And we got to find a way to be in a more nuanced place where we let them know that we trust in their abilities and that they have the capacity and ability to do things, but that we're always available. Like most of the time, my girls are sending me funny, like TikToks and stuff. That's the majority. We text funny things back and forth all the time.
Yeah.
But when they do text or call about something they need, they don't want me to solve it. They want to talk about it. So like, my daughter will call and be like, I'm debating this or this or this. I'm like, what do you think? And she's like, I'm thinking this because of this, I might drop that. And I'm just listening and being curious. And then she decides, and she does, I was about to say the drop slip. There's no more drop slips. You just do it online.
What's it? Oh, add drop when you drop
add
class?
drops. Yeah. Do you remember how we had to fill out slips?
Sweetie, speak for yourself. I never dropped a class.
Really?
No.
Well, dropping a class isn't always because you can't hack it. Sometimes
Actually, that's
it's
not true. I did drop a class. Now that I think about it.
Yeah. And sometimes it's to change your
Just
schedule.
move things around.
Now they can just do it online. But it's not even about I like it. I don't know any different. Why wouldn't we be a support system for our kids? I don't understand the whole idea.
We wouldn't, I'll take the devil's advocate here, is because if we do that, then they're not learning anything.
Which that makes no sense. So then they're going to somebody else, a coach or an advisor, whatever, to do the same process. Like, how do you learn, people?
Yeah.
I learn by talking to people and working things through and not asking for advice to the point where I'm only depending on other people, but processing through something. Like, two things I think of. You remember how Ed Bacon, our buddy, Reverend Ed Bacon, wrote in his book, you are the president of your life, but you have not committee. What's the word I'm looking for? A cabinet.
Yep.
And you look to your cabinet because you can't be an expert on everything.
Yep.
But in the end, you make the decision. And then I also heard Liz Gilbert say yesterday she was on Glennon's podcast again, and she was saying how when people are asking other people for advice too much, it's called a monkey survey. I loved this. So not only do we have monkey mind, where we're like, what do I do? What do I do? But when we ask everybody else what we should do, it's called a monkey survey because everyone's going to give you back some different information. So with my girls, it's less about go ask everybody else what to do and more like find someone you trust to process through your ideas and see if it makes sense to you as you get more curious.
Well, and then the hope is that they will ask support or advice or whatever, and then they tune in and trust their own guts.
You just said it better.
Yeah.
That's all I'm trying to say is like, I am not the one who's going to tell them what to do. And I very rarely say, you could maybe think of times where I've been like, do this, but I can't think of a time we've ever been like, you should do this.
No. And I'm thinking of one of our daughters had a romantic relationship with somebody, and I just kind of had a feeling it wasn't the most healthy relationship.
Okay.
And it could have been easy for me to be like, hey, you know what? This doesn't feel right. I don't think that this is going to go in the right direction. Just some of the behaviors she was telling me. She was staying up all night. They're fighting. I'm like, this isn't the way relationships are supposed to work, especially in the beginning. I didn't say any of that. I loved who she chose to love. And then and
we loved that person as well.
We loved that person. But she had to figure that out for herself.
And that to me is like a no-brainer. This is exactly what I mean is that for me, like that experience or many others that my girls have had relationships with friends or with romantic partners, I had to go through all that too. And you don't have, as a parent, I'm not going to be like, here's what you should do and you should break up with them or whatever. They need to feel their way through that. Yeah. And I'll tell you something, you don't know how it's going to end up. Because Todd, the reason Todd and I always tell our history so much is because once Todd and I got together, my friends were not happy about it. Like, if you really looked at our history, it wasn't this, it wasn't this thing where it's like, oh, that was always meant to be. We had to work through a lot of stuff.
A little bit of therapy.
Yeah, a little bit of therapy.
A little family of origin stuff happening.
We had to, and so you don't always know. So you may be like, but it seems disruptive, or they seem not right, or they seem on the wrong page. And they might be at that point, but you don't know where it's going to end up.
Yeah. You can't be like, hey, this is a bad idea. Yeah. You should break up with this person.
You don't know.
At the end of the day, what I think our show is all about is the world out there is a world that will give you the lessons.
Correct.
So when they show back up, either in a text or a phone call, or when they walk in the door, our job is to hold space for whatever it is that they're, and then love them and support them. Like, it's kind of funny, and I don't even know why I started, but when our kids come home from school, we clap. Like
it's one of my favorite
when I'm
things.
having a decent day, we just clap as if they just were recognized for winning an award for something.
I know.
When all it is they came home for this.
Well, and it's our kids, but it's also like when your sister comes, we clap.
Yeah,
when
just
Jess
clap.
comes, we clap.
And,
like, it's just, we just clap.
But doesn't it feel good to be a part of lighting up when somebody walks in the room? And I feel like us parents spend way too much time wanting to instruct or discipline or
be like a safeguard,
not spoil or whatever. And, just if we can light up when our kids enter the room, we're doing a pretty good job.
Well, again, I'll go back to what I said before is that it's not about throwing our parents under the bus. They were amazing for their generation, right? And they evolved from their Depression era generation that their parents had.
Well, that's what I was going to say. And I know you're onto something, but
okay.
We're the bridge between, they were too.
They were a bridge too.
Their parents were messed up and probably more so than they did to us. Like,
my grandma had like, I'm going to get this wrong, but like 10 siblings or 9 siblings. And my grandfather had 10 siblings or 9 siblings. There was all sorts of miscarriages, loss, death. They all worked on a farm. Like, it's like such a different world. And then now, so it's like as a great, my great great grandma, she couldn't pay attention to 9 kids all at once.
Right.
So then my parents, you know, get the reins and they have 2 girls.
Yeah.
So they could focus a little more, but they also, that was the era of career for women.
Yep.
So my mom worked full time as a teacher. So I'm a latchkey kid, right? That was that generation. Then our generation is a bridge of self-awareness. It's like us realizing that communication and connection and consciousness are necessary, not just for parenting, but for romantic relationships, for the workplace. And then I'll tell you something, the thing that I so appreciate about millennials is they're the ones who actually put things that we've been talking about into action. I will not work more than this number of hours.
Yeah.
I want to work from home for a day.
Generally speaking, they have more clear, healthier boundaries.
And our generation has been like, you don't work like we do. You have no work ethic. And again, I'm being very general, but I think they're establishing a healthy work ethic. Right. Ours was nuts.
Right.
Ours was around the clock, come in whenever. And then when phones and computers were part of it, we couldn't ever log off.
Get away, yeah.
So, you know, and then I think Gen Z is politically active and creative and out of the box. Like, and then we've got Gen Alpha who's going to have their, so it's supposed to be different. And so this article, I was going to read you guys all the statistics because it's 9 in 10 parents. Okay. I'll read you guys
a little bit out there.
9 in 10 parents rate their relationships with their young adult children as good or excellent. And so do
Stop
8.
there.
Okay.
9 out of 10 parents say that their relationship with their kids are good or excellent.
Yeah.
That's astounding.
And it says, and so do 8 in 10 young adults. And this is a consistent thing across income. Rather than feeling worried or disappointed about how things are going in their children's lives, 8 in 10 parents say they feel proud and hopeful. And I think that has to do with relationship. Because if we are distant from our kids and we're only gauging their success on, do you have a job? Are you married? Are you having kids? Then our success window is so small. Yeah. Whereas if you have a relationship with your kid, you know that they're going through certain things, or they made big choices, or they're going through big life decisions, and you're proud of them for evolving as a human, versus having these markers of success. And when I'm saying markers of success, I don't even know if I call these markers success. Do you know what I mean? Not that they're not success, but we have an old school version of what kids are supposed to be doing. You know, like by this age, you know, I remember my friend, we all have so many memories like this, but I remember my friend Brian, when we were 25, he was one of my first buddies to get married. And I remember at the wedding going, oh my God, because I was like just getting my shit together, right? At 25, I just moved into my own apartment. Like, I just was like, oh my God, you're getting married. He's like, Kathy, that's what you do at 25. Yikes. Like, he really had a thought of, it's time to do this. And he's not alone. I think that's a very common, idea. But is it? Like, do we have to do that at 25? One of my best girlfriends, who I love dearly, I just found out she was engaged. I was late to the party, and she's a year older than me, and she's getting married for the first time. Sure. See, this whole idea of curiosity and broadening our perception of ourselves and our kids gives us lots of space for different markers of success. Sure. What does it mean to you? And if you know your kid, then that's more interesting. So did you want any other stats?
Yeah, I kind of feel like this was an interesting conversation, and I feel like we should quit while we're on top.
Really?
Unless there's a bunch of other stuff that you want to go over, but
kind of like Seinfeld.
Yeah. Good old Jerry.
How about have you been enjoying, did you like those clips from Billy Joel on Howard Stern?
I love Billy Joel, and I love Howard Stern when he's with Billy Joel, because he's in, Howard, we can do a whole podcast on Howard, and I think he's not as crazy or stupid as he used to be regarding. He's chill. But yes, to answer your question, I think we subscribe to Sirius XM. I just don't know.
We don't listen to the long form interview. We see the clips and they're so amazing. Yeah. It's funny. I don't know why, but I feel like Dax has been talking about Howard a lot. I think he had someone on. I don't know if he had Jimmy Kimmel's wife, and that's bad. I should not say Jimmy Kimmel's wife. He had Molly, who is the head writer of the Jimmy Kimmel show, and she and Jimmy happened to get married later on, but she is more than just, that's
of course,
but they were talking about Howard, and they were saying that he kind of has to keep up a persona of that life sucks and everything sucks and I hate everybody, because he has so much now. Like he's got this great marriage and all this, it's not just about the money, but he just has access to so many people that he has to stay grounded somehow. But that truthfully, he's mellowed out a ton,
Yeah.
And I feel like he had Paul Giamatti on a couple of weeks ago. And, if anyone saw Private Parts, it's his whole history, and he was a nightmare.
Yes.
I had lots of different versions of not liking Howard Stern. But anyway, so you'll link to this article, Todd?
I will. I'm writing myself a note right
Okay,
now.
link to it so it's on the bottom, and I'll just read something. I'll just read like a few things as we're closing.
Okay.
Okay, so this is helpful. These close relationships don't seem to be holding back young people from reaching milestones of independence. Compared with their parents, as young adults in the early 1990s, they're much more likely to be in college or have a college degree. They are somewhat more likely to have a full-time job, and their inflation-adjusted incomes are higher, but they are less likely to be married or with children. But is that because of their relationship with their parents, or because of their generation having a better understanding of their choices?
Yeah, like what's the
climate? Yeah, I think that, and, fertility, has changed as far as our ability to freeze eggs and that type of thing. And I know, I'll end on this note, it's not the most positive one, but because I have teens and I talk to them and their friends and just girls their age and my college students, they're not super psyched to have kids. Do you find that to be kind of
I would be lying if I said that I am informed in that regard. I do not know.
Not all of them. Like, they have moments of where they're like, oh, it'd be so great to have a family, but there's a fear about the future,
Yeah, I wonder why. I wonder if it's because we have however many $1 trillion of debt.
Well, that and guns
and climate change.
They're like, I don't know. And I appreciate their willingness to talk it through.
Yeah, if there's one thing that I just feel collectively shameful for, is the debt that we are passing down to them, because you and I are going to be dead and buried before we ever.
Do you mean as a society?
As a U.S. government?
Yeah, as a government.
Talk about as a government, like and people say, well, if all we have to do is take a chunk of GDP, and it's not as overwhelming of a problem, but it's getting to the point where it's unbelievably ridiculous.
Yeah, it's rough. So anyway, read the article, see what you think. I thought it was very thought-provoking. I appreciate my friend Annie for sending it to me. And I think that, our ability to be in relationship with people, if they be our partner, our children, our neighbors, our coworkers, I don't think there's anything better than relationships with other people. It keeps us alive and healthy and thriving. Right, Todd?
That's right.
Isn't that the best predictor of longevity, is connection?
The best predictor, the quality of our life is dependent upon the quality of our relationships.
Amen.
That's the bottom line. Keep trucking, everybody.